Fred here, welcome back to the Gear Obsession channel. In this episode, we will be taking a look at a huge tactical folder, the Camillus Beast. Stay tuned. Over the past year, I've really been drawn to large folders, like large tactical folders, and I really have been favoring cold steel when it comes to these particular knives. Like my EDC is the Cold Steel American Lawman. My favorite overall large tactical folder is the Cold Steel Recon 1. Really like this. And I was walking around Walmart. Again, people who know me are like, yep, no surprise there. But walking around Walmart, and they, as you all probably know, have Camillus products. And the biggest one, as a matter of fact, probably the biggest folder in the cabinet, is this Camillus Beast. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it in, and we'll start unboxing and taking a real close look at this. The model number of this Camillus Beast is 19101. And it's a Camillus, but it's not the same Camillus that some of you might have remembered, especially some of you older folks. Camillus is now owned by Acme United Corporation, and most of their knives are made in China, although I've heard of some rumors of them maybe moving some production back here to the U.S. Now, on the box here, it does say made in China. It does say Acme United Corporation. They're not hiding these things, although they do, they do play on their name. They try to market that name. That's why they bought it, of course. Lifetime warranty right there. So there's the box. The classification of this knife is a very large, very, very large tactical folder. And I like the way it comes in this cushy foam thing. Kind of neat. Nice packaging. But the purpose of this knife, it's kind of hard. Purpose of this knife might be to weigh down your pants. Undo your belt and it'll pull down your pants. But it's a defensive tactical knife, or an EDC if you EDC large knives, of course. The closed length of this is 5 7/8 inches. That's closed. The blade length, let's take a look at that. I might have to zoom out to get this into the camera view. The blade length is 3 3/4 inches, and it depends on how you measure it. I can measure this out where it actually can get out there to even 4 inches, but most documentation is stating 3 3/4 inches. The overall weight of this knife is 8.3 ounces, and the overall length of this knife, when open, is 9 3/4 inches. So it's really big. Okay, enough with the specs. What we have here is a knife that can be opened in two different ways. You have the flipper right there, where you could just sort of knock it out. Now, this is a big blade, so it's very hard to just do that without using some wrist action. But with wrist action, it will come out very fast. Or you could use the thumb hole. Thumb hole is right here, and you just slowly pull it out so you don't scare the living crap out of your friends or co-workers. Let's go ahead and take a close look there. You can see it says Camillus. It also says carbon nitride titanium, right? Is that what it says? Carbon nitride titanium, which is a coating which we'll talk about here shortly. Now, you could also see in the blade that they cut out a lot here. That's probably to reduce weight, because this is a very, very heavy knife. Now, this blade is VG10, and I'll tell you what, let me really bring in here close, because I want you to see this. Whoop, maybe a little too close. You can see it says VG10 right here. That is an amazing steel. That's considered a super steel. You know, it's better than it's a close cousin to OS 8, which is also Japanese steel, but this is it. They actually made it better by adding some other. You know, I'm not a metal ergy type of person, but they add the stuff that starts with a V, validadium or something, and that allows for better edge retention, and it allows it to get sharper. And the other thing that it does is this stuff can be made very hard without getting brittle. So this metal you could get to an HRC, which is the Rockwell hardness scale. You could get this up to 60 without it getting brittle. It'll stay tough. That's what's special about the VG10. And a lot of people like to compare it to the S30Vs and the 154 CMs, but each of those other super steels have a give and take. So I don't want to get into a big argument about which is better. You could always go to the blade forums and read all about what everybody thinks about all those steels. So moving on, the coating. The coating that they put on here is a carbon nitride titanium coating. They claim it will not flake, it will not chip, but you know what? I've never ever met a coating that would not scrape off, and it will scrape off. I guarantee it. There are videos on the interwebs and here on YouTube where people have been able to scrape it off. But they do claim it's 10 times harder than untreated steel. The locking mechanism is a liner lock. I'm going to go ahead and zoom you back in here so you can see that right there. And because it's so big, everything is so big on this knife, it actually makes the liner look skinny. And maybe it is, you know, for a very large knife. But you can see that the lockup right there is early and probably where you want it to be for a new knife. It might be a little scary early, but I think it's good. If you really, I'm going to go ahead and zoom out here real quick. If you flip it out hard, it gets a little bit later in there. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll let you come back in here, and you can take a look at the lockup for yourself, and you can see that it's pretty good. It's not closing on me, so that's good, and I like that it's early because that allows a lot of wear before the lock. So as long as it's secure, which it is. The handle here, if you notice, sort of looks like my Carter, but it's not. It is G10. The reason why it looks like micarta is because they didn't put any texturing on this. So you actually see the layers of fiberglass within the resin, which is what G10 is. A lot of people complain about this not looking like G10, but that's what G10 looks like if you don't have texture. And they didn't put any texture. This is all very, very smooth. The thumb studs, I have a note here, has no thumb studs again. It has that thumb hole. Now, let's talk about the clip. Here's the clip. It has this little bayonet cut out in there just to make it look cool. But the clip is, you know, it's not too tight, not too loose, but this is a very heavy knife, so it could possibly, if you're hanging upside down, slide out of your pocket, especially if your pants are thin. So just, you know, mind that. You know, the reason why its retention is not the greatest in the world is because it's resting on a very smooth G10, and this would have to be extremely tight to hold on to very thin pants because of the weight of this knife. Now you can mount this tip up or tip down. You can see it has some holes here or here, but it's only for right-handed people. That kind of sucks. So sorry, 15% of you are all left out by Camillus. Call them up. Let them know you're not happy about it. The place where this is manufactured is China, and that is evident in the quality control. And let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to zoom in so you can sort of see the liners here, and you could see a lot of machining right there. Let me just zoom out a teeny bit. Whoops, I am sorry. But you can see there all the machining here. It really cheapens the look of an overall. It's a really nice knife, but it really cheapens the look. You can see here machining. You could see machining right here, even on the blade itself. Whereas my all-time favorite folder, which is, of course, my Recon 1, you can see the machining is much more refined here, and this is made in Taiwan, and they still did a really nice job as far as, not having machine marks left all over it. You can see how nice and smooth that is. But they did not as good a quality control in China. Okay, so I think we covered everything. Again, we have a lifetime warranty, and did I mention the price? You get we're talking VG10 and we're talking G10 scales, and those are high-end materials for knives. Usually knives with these type of materials end up costing, $100 or even more. But if you go to Walmart, you could get this for $68. It's about $10 more online. So, but if you go to Walmart, $68 for these type of materials is a really good buy. Okay, so let's go ahead and, oops, I forgot to mention one more obvious thing, and that is that the blade is a modified tonneau, which is why I call this a tactical folder. It is a hollow grind right here, about halfway up. And again, you got this cutout. Some people might want to call that a blood groove to let blood out when you're stabbing somebody, whatever you want to call it. I think it's there just to save weight. So let's go ahead and move on to some testing and see how well this holds up. And the first test that we have is blade centering. And I'm happy to say that blade centering is spot on perfect. Let you zoom in there and you can see how perfect it is. So good job, 10 out of 10 for blade centering. Congratulations. Next is blade retention. Now, blade retention is how well it stays locked in to the handle there, and it's pretty good. But this is a large blade. I know some people might consider this a little bit tight, but to me it feels just about right. It doesn't come out unless you really work on it. Now, I can really get this out if I really sling it, and with some skill you could actually get it all the way out using momentum, but it takes a lot. I don't think this is going to open up in the pocket, so blade retention is about right where it should be. It's already a little difficult for some people to open this because it's so big. It is not the smoothest knife in the world, and if you add any tighter retention on it, it might be too hard for some folks to open. So I think it's just right. Now, lockup engagement, I already showed you where that is for the liner, and it's just right for a new knife. And there is no up and down play, and there's the ever so slightly side-to-side play, which I'm not going to mess with until it loosens up a little more or I oil it, but you can tighten that up using a Torx screwdriver. You have Torx screws here for your pivot screws on each side, and you could go ahead and tighten that up until you get rid of the side-to-side play. And I'm not talking about a lot. I'm talking about the kind of side-to-side play that you can barely feel and you can't see kind of thing, which is the way a lot of knives come, including a lot of cold steel even will do that. So no problem there. Next, we'll go ahead and check to see if this is sharp. Now, I have some got my geek voice there. I'm gonna go ahead and check for sharpness to see if we could do the paper cut. And Camillus does a good job with how sharp they come right from the factory. So, very good job as far as sharpness I hate saying that, out of the box, because everybody says that now. But I don't know what else you're supposed to say. Right from the factory. Next, let's talk about how well the tip will stand up to a little bit of stabbing. Now, when I do this, I always get comments about, oh, you can you're going to hurt your hand, or you can cut your hand off or whatever. When I stab, I'm not holding it like this, just so you know. I'm sort of holding it like this, so if it does fall back, it won't fall back on my fingers. But I am going to whack this really hard, and I want to make sure that the tip can stand up to some reasonable stabbing and prying inside this wood here. So let's go ahead and you can see I am doing it pretty hard. And then we'll go ahead and rock it a little bit there, just to make sure that we don't have a really cheap blade, and it would be really sad being VG10 if this were to fail because of something as simple as doing this. Alright, so there we go. So let's go ahead and zoom in, and you can take a look at the tip for yourself. But to me, it looks perfect. It looks blurry. It looks perfect. I don't see any, I don't even see any peeling or flaking of the coating on there. So actually that stood up pretty good, although this coating will come off if you really start using the knife. As with any coating out there, I don't care what any manufacturer says, coatings will come off eventually. So I think that's all the tests other than ergonomics. Now, ergonomically, it's adequate. Now, I have big hands, so I'm actually making this knife look a little small. But when I go ahead and take out my Recon 1, and let's look at that side by side so you can sort of get an idea how big the Beast is. It really is big. Most of you already know that the Cold Steel Recon 1's a pretty big knife. But when I hold this, and then I go to my Recon 1, the Recon 1 feels like luxury. It just melts right into your hand. It feels so comfortable. And this it doesn't feel bad, but it doesn't feel great. Another thing is Cold Steel has that really nice texture, and because your hand is sort of melting into this handle, and you got the texture, you know that this is not going to slip even when your hands are wet. This, you have a very smooth scales, and your hand is not melting into this. It's a very straight kind of grip. It doesn't quite feel as comfortable, and you could maybe lose control of this if you're swinging it wildly. Fortunately, because of the flipper ending up down here, and you do get this like sort of half choil here, your hand shouldn't slip. You got a ramp here. Too bad there's no jimping there, and you do have the flipper down here. It really should, if you're holding it reasonably tight, if you're stabbing, your hand should not slip onto the blade. But you need to be a little bit more careful with this knife than others, because it's just very smooth and if your hands are wet. Now for reverse grip, it's fairly comfortable. It's sort of has this cutout here for your thumb to sort of ride over. So if you're stabbing like this, it should be okay, especially if you choke up on the handle there a little bit. Now, other ways you could use this knife, if you're doing fine work, it's no problem there. Your index finger here could be right behind that ramp right there, and you can do some fine work. Holding it like this, if you're doing fine work, feels comfortable, but not as comfortable as this Recon. So at the end of these reviews, I go ahead and give you a rating, and I give you some pros and cons. So I'm giving this a 8 out of 10, and here's the balance of how I came to that. First of all, for a price point of $68, I'm not talking about the higher price ones, but for where you can get it for $68, Walmart, you're getting G10 scales and you're getting VG10 steel, which is amazing for a knife at this price point. Which, if everything, let's just say that. This does have dual methods of opening. Again, you could use the thumb stud or you could use the flipper. It has a open pillar design, as you can see there, so it's very easy to clean, and it's very easy to take apart because it's all Torx all the way around. So if you have a Torx screw set, you could just go ahead and unscrew it and clean it up and do whatever you need to do. They don't keep you locked out. Now, there are some cons to this, which I've already mentioned. It's very smooth. There's no texturing on the G10 scale, so you really don't have a lot of traction. They don't really give you much jimping. What jimping they did put on the liners is in there even behind the scale, so it's not functional at all. It's so I don't know, traction on here and grip on here is not very good. Other problems I have with this knife is, again, the machining. The machining on the liner locks, or on the liners, the steel here, really cheapens the look of this knife. If they, smoothed out these liners and, didn't leave the machining there, this would look like an extremely high-end knife. I mean, I understand the look they were going for, nice McCarter-looking G10 scales, and if they just did just a teeny bit more quality control and just smoothed out those liners, they would have had a gorgeous looking knife. But they really screwed up, and it just cheapened the look of the knife. And they also left out left-handed folks, where you only have right-handed tip up, tip down, and they said screw the other 15%. So with all that said, because I just said it, I'm going to go ahead and give this a 8 out of 10 at the price point of $68. Now, I have another caveat to that score of 8 out of 10, and that is that you have to be able to get it at that price point, $68. Not $79. I would drop it to 7 out of 10. The other thing is that you need to get this knife in your hand and look at it before you buy it, because quality control, in my mind, is a little questionable, because I viewed many videos that I can find on YouTube on this before I'm doing this review, and I've also went through some blade forums to take a look and see what people are saying, and some people are not liking or are experiencing lockup, where when they are getting some play, and that play is happening because the actual liner is actually backing up a little bit and it's moving. Now mine is not doing that. It has a good solid lockup, and there was also variations in the coloring of the scales, which to me would be normal, but a lot of people don't like that. And again, just all this machining and everything, I'm hesitant with the quality control, especially coming from China. So what I would recommend is that you go to where I went, which is Walmart, and get them to give it to you, and look at it really close, make sure the blade centering is good, the lockup is good, and if it is, and you're walking out of there with a $68 G10 VG10 largest folder in the industry knife, you got a good buy. You absolutely did, and I would highly recommend it. So there you go. I'm sorry for the very long review, but I haven't done a knife review for a very long time, and I do like to go over a lot of details. I want to make you feel good about your knife if you did buy it, and or to help those who are trying to decide whether to buy this or not. Now, me personally, if I had to make a choice between like the Cold Steel American Lawman and the Cold Steel Recon 1 and the Camillus, I would probably go with the Cold Steel Recon, even though the steel is only AS8 on this. But if you're just looking for the biggest freaking knife you could find in a pocket knife, and you really want a super steel like VG10, then this is your answer, as long as you double check it because of questionable quality control. So there you go, world's longest review of the Camillus Beast. So thank you very much for joining me here at the Gear Obsession channel. I really appreciate every friend, viewer, subscriber, you, and all the troops out there keeping us safe and free. Take care, and I will see you Tuesday. Bye.